The key to making the Sound Health Network a dynamic community is collaboration. And every real collaboration begins with dialogue. Our next segment features a heart-to-heart between music and science. Grammy-winning musician Esperanza Spalding speaks with the Sound Health Network's own Charles Lim, chief surgeon and hearing specialist at UC San Francisco, whose passion as a musician fuels his research on how musical creativity operates in the brain. Watch this fascinating conversation.
Esperanza, it's so good to see you again virtually. I'm really sorry that we can't meet in person during this madness.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we were able to see each other or hear any live music. How have you been doing with all this?
I mean, the bulk of the work that I do is work that's done alone, prepping and studying and practicing and writing and editing and devising. I definitely get the sense that we're going to move into a time where we really, really appreciate the medicine of being together and sharing the real-time vibrations of musical performance. So what about you?
I sure hope that happens. For me,
Yeah.
I'm in this other situation where the hospital right now is a reminder of, I think, how lucky I am to be healthy and to be able to help somebody who is not healthy. It's been gratifying. I don't think I ever told you this when we first met at the Kennedy Center, but my parents were both surgeons, but as a result, I didn't want to go into medicine. I actually intentionally did not want to go into medicine. I was always thinking about music and how I could have a life that was somehow musical, even though I didn't have the conviction to be a musician. And then it was actually when I was in the OR watching open heart surgery as a volunteer, and I saw this, literally looking at this person's heart beating in front of me, and I realized that there was a direct relationship between the physical nature of the body and that patient's ability to have joy, love, happiness, all of the things that made life worth living. And so for me, all of a sudden, there was this link between all the things I got in music and what I was seeing in the hospital. And then it suddenly felt okay for me to pursue a career in medicine.
It makes me think about maybe our expectations that we bring to music practitioners of wanting to see a kind of like parallel expression of seriousness. And when you were speaking about the heart being open and recognizing this physical tool that facilitates like the real grand adventure of being, which is based in experiencing life and beauty and love, I think about the role of the music practitioner in so many ways is to bring forth and translate and present that beauty. Similarly, I'm curious about the therapeutic effects of music, right? Because we've spoken about this. Something is going on. There's a lot of things going on that have been measured at different dimensions. We want to know how to work with those to enhance the potential for the music to do it. And it feels like whatever's really going on is like just past what we can see, which is kind of terrifying and amazing. And I think part of what makes this like point that we're both standing at so exhilarating, because we're like truly peering into mystery and see what we can draw from these, paths of expertise to like illuminate part of the mystery so we can use it to help people, right?
Then somewhere along the way, you're talking about thinking that music should always feel good and how it did. But then there became this concept of responsibility that's in there. They're merged together. Where did that come out? I can tell you how it came up for me, but I think it's very different.
Please.
Well, an artist is, at the beginning, it's an exploration of oneself in a very profound way, and giving the insights that you gain from that exploration back to the world. But medicine is not really that way. In fact, it's actually the opposite. You're trying to almost take yourself out of the equation. So let me give you an example. Let's take an emergency situation in surgery. Somebody is bleeding, somebody is not doing well, a patient is crashing. Actually, the last thing you want to do in that situation is be emotional. You need to recognize that there's an emotional significance to the possible stakes of what happens. Yes, that has to be a foundational given. But your job at that moment is not to feel, it's actually to think your way to help this person that needs your help. And so the responsibility is very immediate there. So I never felt like I had a home in medicine until I found the field of otolaryngology and specifically otology, because it's all about the ear and hearing. In fact, one day, Esperanza, you need to join me in the operating room, because when you look at the eardrum and you look at how small the hearing bones are, sometimes we remove the stapes, which is the third ossicle. It's the most, really the most important hearing bone.
One of my favorite words, by the way. I just think that's an amazing word, ossicle. But
Well,
back
when
to
you
you.
hold it in the palm of your hand and it's so small, and you realize, wow, that is how that person has heard all the sound they've heard on that ear for their whole life, makes you really see the linkages between this sort of physical reality and this deeper experience. And so the responsibility
Yes.
I always have is that people show up from day one basically saying that they can't do this, they can't hear music, they can't enjoy the benefits of the auditory world. And I immediately wanted to try to set out and figure out how to solve it.
Wow, that's really deep to think about that responsibility in your field as a practitioner being grounded in a certain way, the removal of the self. We know that it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get the full sort of objective biological benefit of music therapies without the subjective perspective of the listener and the music maker.
When you raise this concept of music as medicine, you once told me how you have had the experience many times where as you're playing for an audience, you can tell that there's an impact on that audience. How meaningful is that to you as an artist?
It makes me think about a phrase that I read in this study out of Holland that was using music therapy as an intervention for employees who had to take sick leave because of work-related stress. We can't really tell how much of this study is about the potency of the music and the way that the music intervention is working, and how much of it is about the clients, the patients, feeling cared for. Feeling cared for by that music therapist. And that really hit, that really struck. And what it implied to me is that these researchers who are trying to look at this intervention objectively perceived a sort of correlation between the experience of receiving music and engaging with music and feeling cared for. They questioned whether or not the felt sense in the body of being cared for is what actually triggered or supported the shift in their mental state that allowed them to go back to work. Surely there's some analysis of what that is chemically in the brain, the sense of being cared for, even down to that. And maybe that's one of the ways that you're alluding to, that the artists and the scientists can kind of invite the other to stretch past the boundaries of what they do and how they do it. It might be an invitation to ask the scientists, actually bring your whole subjective self onto the other side of this veil, because that's the only way you're going to be able to perceive the truth in this space.
You just articulated perfectly the whole point of, I think, the Sound Health Network and also the difficulties that we face. It's really about this melding of cultures that are different. And, to me, this subjective-objective tension is a great example of the things that we need to figure out how to grapple with. These are the dilemmas, right? So scientists generally don't want subjectivity to be a part of the discussion. What I want is, exactly as you said, for scientists to join hands with musicians and say, okay, what do you know that I need to know to really understand this? And how can I make a better experiment? How can I write an analysis that you'll actually care to read about, so that in the end, my work is relevant for what you do and your music is relevant for how I approach it?
Science and music have always been in conversation. I mean, there's a science to what a luthier does. There's an objective methodology to what a luthier does. Part of what lights this up as such a fantastical and new and exciting path is because we're talking about the science of the body, which, as mechanical as it is in so many ways, carries within it so many mysteries that are way beyond even the most advanced medical doctor or brain surgeon. You know, it's like rife with mystery. Science is still evolving. Music is still progressing. And it seems like whatever that river is of continuation of the human spirit of inquiry, it's really not contingent on us being right or even doing it well. It's just that we came with sincerity.
Well, you're such a joy to listen to. You know, I sometimes don't even want to participate in the conversation because I just want you to be the one talking.
Charles,
I'll tell you
come
this
on now.
though, 1,000 years from now, people will still be listening to your music. And
Oh, Charles.
oh, they will be. And you know what they will think? They will think that my world got better when they heard it.
Oh,
And so
that
if
is a very sweet thing to say.
I fully believe it, I'm so grateful and just looking forward to the chance to continue speaking with you about this.
Well, if I'm still alive in 1,000 years, I will definitely need some support on my hearing faculty. So I'm gonna be reaching out to your, 992-year-old self and being like, yo, can you hook up this hearing?
Yes.
One of my obstacles is loose in there.
I got it. I'll take care of it. I'd really like to thank Esperanza Spalding for joining us once again here with the Sound Health Network. And as always, your participation and your insights and your musicianship and your wisdom is always so valuable. And I learn, I think, a lifetime's worth of information and insights every time I talk to you. And so I'm very glad to have you here. And I really look forward to what we'll do next. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for inviting me into this space. It's really a privilege, and I learn a lot. I learn a lot in conversation with you. Thank you.